the volume.
Turn up the volume.
You've arrived at the destination for all things Kentucky. This is the Bleed Blue Network Podcast.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Field Vision with Josh Kattus and Beau Allen. Beau, how we doing today, brother?
Doing good. Coming off a bye week. First, we got to watch a ton of football. Take some time off of football, but I'm excited. We got a big game coming up this week against Vanderbilt. Doing well.
That's good, man. I'm doing well as well. I guess I kind of want to have this little segment. It's called Bye Week Shenanigans. What'd you get into during your bye week?
So this week we were off. This past week we were off Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On every other day besides really Saturday, I was hung out. But on Saturday, I went to Keeneland the day. Kind of, I guess, had a UK fan kind of day. I just was at Keeneland most of the day. Didn't lose any money. Didn't make any money. I don't gamble much, but gambled a little bit and came out even.
There you go.
It was good. A beautiful Saturday though. And hopefully I get it back out there sometime. How was your week?
Oh, it was great. Obviously we had those few practices during the week, which was good to work on some stuff that, you want to clean up and also get your body healed for the rest of the season. And then Friday I decided to, or it was actually Thursday evening, I decided to drive home to Cincy. We just hung out. We watched the NFL game that Thursday. The next day we woke up and it was really just hanging out with my family. My brother had a game in Louisville. They played Trinity High School. He goes to St. X Cincinnati.
Kentucky boys got after him, I think. Right?
Yeah. It was a good game. If Moeller played him, it would have been a different story. But that's my alma mater. But, it could have gone either way. There was a very controversial call during the game that caused the Bombers to lose. But then we had a fun time in Louisville, and then we came back Saturday, had a bunch of homework, watched some great college football, and then I actually bought the UFC fight that night too, which was pretty fun. And then Sunday, a little hobby I'd like to do outside of football is I'm actually a spectacular bowler. So we all went bowling on Sunday.
I can't confirm that. We've never been bowling.
Yeah, you can't confirm it, but we if we want to have it confirmed, we can all you guys can challenge me. I'm telling you.
I was on a bowling team in college, actually.
Nice. My dad was too, and I absolutely just destroyed him.
What's your highest score you've ever bowled?
200.
Oh yeah, easy pickings. Just like eating sushi.
What about you?
I average like 250.
Okay. Do we have like a flip phone picture to confirm that, or what we got?
I'm not that old.
We need to go to South and Bowling Alley and have go at it.
We could videotape it.
Okay.
Great. I'll beat you while eating the sushi roll that I won from you.
Oh, we're bringing that up
at the same time.
Are we bringing that up right now?
I'm just letting you know that.
You're right.
It's just going to be a track record of taking L's.
You won the sushi football pick of the week.
Yeah.
Okay. And
by a lot.
That's a good way to roll into it.
By a lot.
This past week, we talked about a couple games. One of the big games we talked about was A&M versus Missouri. I think me and Paul did say that A&M were going to win. Probably not by that much, but
no, not that much. No.
Yeah, and I picked Missouri just to disagree with Paul, but I really had Texas A&M winning when I talked about it with my buddies.
That feels like a political flip-flop right there.
But honestly, was not surprised that Texas A&M won.
I was surprised by how much they won by.
Yeah.
I thought they might win and cover like 10 points, but they beat the doors off them. But it also probably didn't help that Brady Cook also kind of talked a little ish about the 12th man. That probably didn't help a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't play well. 13 of 31, 186 yards, 1 touchdown. Texas pretty much dominated the game. Connor Wiggman, is that how you say his last name? Was
Wigman.
Yeah, it was pretty efficient.
It was his first game back, too. He got injured against Notre Dame.
4 incompletions.
Yeah, 18 to 22, and then they ran the ball all over him. So Texas A&M dominated that game at pretty much every level.
Yeah, as I'm not sure. Like we said, Missouri, probably similar to how Ole Miss was a couple of weeks ago when we played them. They haven't really played too many teams besides Vanderbilt. But it's kind of interesting to see how the rest of the season will go. Another game we talked about, I think Paul also had right. We didn't really, I guess, I'm not sure if we even picked this game, but Tennessee versus Arkansas. Tennessee obviously was coming off strong and coming undefeated and still a strong team, but Arkansas came off with a pretty big upset there.
With a backup quarterback.
So I didn't get to watch. So Taylor Green got hurt, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And
came back in for one play.
He got a concussion or something?
No, it was they went low, hit his knee.
Really?
Yeah, he went out, came back, and played one play, and he tried to take off out of the pocket, and he did. He didn't get hit, but that was the end of that. Didn't before when we were predicting this past week, we didn't really think it was going to be too great of a week, did we? Like we didn't expect as many. Ended up being
one of the
nuts.
One of the best. Yes,
week.
so far. Yes, I would say the best.
It's the first time in SEC history 2 top 5 SEC teams have lost to an unranked team.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean,
yeah.
It was a fun game to watch. Like I said, the offense at Tennessee has not really been able to get going.
I have a question for you guys from a player's perspective on that game.
Yeah.
Obviously, it looks like Tennessee allowed Arkansas to score that touchdown.
Oh, yes.
Do you, as a player, would you agree with that, or would you kind of feel like that was more of a gut punch that they allowed you, the coaching staff said, let them score?
I was not watching the game live, but so Arkansas had the ball, and they have 13 points?
Yeah. So it was a 1-point game.
And they tried to go for.
And they went for 2 and didn't get it.
They went for 2 and didn't get it, yeah.
There's like 2 minutes left, probably, right?
I think at that point in the game, they were on like what, the 10-yard, 7-yard line,
like
a first down.
I think they had just got a first down. Now I will say that their running back, like they put this other kid in, and he just bowling ball wrecked. They just blew Tennessee off the line that whole drive. I mean, they were gashing him 6 yards, 10 yards, 20 yards. And you could tell the backup, he's mobile, but he pulled the ball. I think if he hands it off, the guy would have scored probably anyway. I thought it was a bad read, and they just kind of let him walk in.
Yeah, I don't think it's a gut punch. If anything, I think that's the right thing to do in that situation.
I like with it being a 1-point game, because I mean, you could. Again, I'm not sure exactly how many timeouts Tennessee had. But,
1 or 2.
But I mean, they could. What they would probably. I mean, what would be a perfect world for Arkansas is either you score on 3rd down or you don't, and you kick a field goal.
I think Arkansas had missed a kick too, or 2 that game.
Well, if that's the case, then that could make it a little more of a story. If you think that if the kicker isn't kicking the ball well.
Yeah, but they were pretty close.
Yes.
So.
I don't think it's.
They were 2 of 3. They actually pulled the starting kicker.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad call because I mean, I guess like if you have the opportunity to go down by a touchdown with about like a minute 30, with a minute 30 or so left, or if Arkansas kicks a field goal and it's 16-14, it's a 1-possession game. They can still win the ball with a kick, but maybe you only got 40 seconds left, and you have no timeouts then. So I think. I mean, different guys probably have different philosophies on it, but I think it's okay. Like, I don't think a team should take that too hard if your coach decides to do that. Mm-hmm. But I would say some people have different philosophies, but I think it's a okay thing to do.
Yeah, I think
with the scenario of the game.
It looked like they actually played defend the pass, let the run in. Mm-hmm. Because obviously in a pass, you interception or pass. But I mean, the other thing too is I'm thinking, I mean, you could at least stop them, maybe get a turnover. Do you not at least try and stop the next player or two with the timeouts? I don't know. It was just weird, and then ultimately, they get down. They made a crazy play.
Well, on the play they scored, like I think they got to the point where when he handed the ball off, he was already about 3 or 4 yards.
No, he didn't hand it off. He pulled it.
Okay, but in the run or whatever, I'm trying to vividly.
No, I actually, if you watch the play, I think Tennessee had it kind of covered up. They would have done if he handed it off. I think the guy walks in, like the running back probably walks in, and that's why I said I thought it was a bad read on the quarterback. If he hands it off, I think he walks in anyway. It doesn't matter what they do, but he pulls and kind of goes around, and you can see like there's
a second level they let him go. Though,
they did it. They eased they kind of just held the middle up, and then the cornerbacks played for pass.
Yeah.
And then once he got there, like two of them, like he kind of hit it and the guy just turned to the side, let him in.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an interesting, weird play. You don't see that very often.
Yeah. You don't. I really thought Tennessee was going to pull away with it when that Arkansas receiver dropped the pass in the end zone. And then I think Tennessee ended up going on to score. And I was like, I don't know if Arkansas is really going to be able to.
Was that a 2-point conversion they dropped?
I'm not sure.
It was a hell of a game. I mean, it was a hell of a game. I mean, it was just a slugfest the whole night.
I know, and they rushed the field after what they got fined. Like
was it 175? I think 250. Oh yeah,
gosh,
yeah. Vandy got the lower.
Yeah,
because never mind. You play Vandy this week. I'll be nice.
UK was going to be the first school to do that. I bet. During week 3, rush the field. I know the fans were probably ready.
Oh, Georgia.
Yeah, they said when we were playing Georgia, like they had already got all the police officers like surrounding the stands and stuff like that because they were expecting.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
If we won, we would have stormed. I think.
I think you would have stormed the field for that. Yeah.
Next game,
Miami and Cal, the late night game. I watched some of it. Incredible comeback by Miami. Questionable non-targeting call. Paul's a fan of the call.
I hate the rule. I hate the rule so much. I know other people have talked to prominent names. Kirk Herbstreit's one of those guys that has talked about targeting. It feels very subjective in some instances. To me, he's not defenseless. And he lowers the shoulder. Like, that's the thing I hate about it the most. Like, if you're an offensive guy and you lower your shoulder and you get hit because the other guy's already trying to lower his shoulder to hit you.
They're both low.
How is that on the defensive player? Like, I've seen it to where they don't launch either, right? Like, it's just he did hit him with the helmet. He also hit him with the shoulder. I look at it as if the role was reversed, would you want that call?
I think targeting can be pretty iffy, especially in those scenarios. I like what you said, when it gets kind of defenseless. I think oftentimes that can be okay, but I think almost half those targeting calls, when it's not that way, can pretty much go either way.
I mean, if you're running with the ball, right, and you're lowering your shoulder to try and get an extra yard, which is clearly what Cal's quarterback was doing,
should not be targeting.
And exactly, like, I understand if you have a receiver coming over the middle and they get blown up, like those things I get. I think we see instances of targeting that makes sense or comes from the side. But if you're one-on-one with the guy and you hit him with the crown of the helmet because you were going low and he goes low with you, that to me is like, really, like that. We don't want to ruin football. Come on, like, that's a game-changing call if they make it. I wouldn't agree.
And what's the guy supposed to do? Just let up.
And he's a big player too. It's not like. It wasn't like the linebacker from Miami is a small guy. I mean, he's a pretty big linebacker too against a pretty big quarterback.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's so many examples you see where plays that should have been called targeting aren't called, and there's plays that they do call targeting that shouldn't have been called. So I think they need to do a better job of really showing what the right call is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and the ejection rule to me is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, have it again. I know, College Game, they talked about this. Herbstreit was somebody who talked a lot about that, not necessarily recently, but I know last year or the year before. Have it like a flagrant foul. You have a flagrant 1 and a flagrant 2. If it's a flagrant 1, make it a 5-yard penalty. A 5-yard penalty, an automatic first down, or a 10-yard, whatever. You keep the penalty, but the player stays in. You get 2, you're out. If it's egregious, you can call it a flagrant 2 or whatever you want to call it, and you eject them. But I mean, like, that's the thing I don't like.
Yeah, automatic.
That exactly.
And then the next half of the next game.
Yeah, it's like that's the NCAA. Like, what have you taught that kid?
And
nothing.
And it's such like how fast the game is at this level. Like, it's such like a split-second decision. Like, the guy's not purposely trying to lower his head and take the guy out. Like, it's a split-second decision. And like you go back a few years ago, right? Remember Clemson had a linebacker?
Mm-hmm. Their top linebacker, number 10. Yeah, I forgot his name.
In a big game. I think it was like a national championship.
Ben Boulware.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got targeting
like very early
in the game, and now Clemson's without him in the biggest game.
Yeah.
So
definitely some changes probably could be made for that rule, in my opinion. But Miami ended up coming back, and Cal was up 25 points mid third quarter. Almost started the fourth. Cal got up a couple different ways. Some turnovers. There was a pick six Cal had, but Cal seemed to not be able to run the ball very well, which was hard to do, or hard to keep a win like that when you're not running the ball well. And Cam Ward and the Hurricanes got hot. One thing I saw was a great game day crowd, college game day crowd for Cal.
Oh yeah,
and the kid hit the $600,000 kick.
Yeah,
600. They upped it up.
Yeah, so he missed the first one. And McAfee says we'll do it, and then puts another $100,000 on top of it so it was $100,000 to him. Sorry, $700,000 kick. It was $100,000 to the kid, $500,000 to Hurricane Helene victims, and then McAfee threw another $100,000 on top of it, and he hit it.
That's gonna be the way to do it. Just miss the first one, you know.
I mean, they always give you an extra try.
Yeah.
I would just shank the hell out of the first one, and then just go up and just knock the next one through.
Feel for it.
Yeah,
I saw a couple of funny things when people were making comments on the game. I think game day there was. I mean, so if it was 9 o'clock Eastern time, it'd be 6 a.m.
It was 6. Yeah.
I bet there were some. I heard this joke from somebody else, but it was like, so if you were just wandering through Berkeley, California, you probably would have thought some big old protest was going on. But somebody had a game day sign and it just said, "What are we protesting?" But no, that was pretty cool to see a crowd like that. And I feel like oftentimes, like when we're in the Southeastern Conference, like people think that football can't be that big at other schools and that sort of nature. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Marshawn Lynch was cracking me up. He drove the little gator cart down, and it looked like he was going to nail the fence every single time.
If you look at the stats of that game, though, you would not believe that it was a 1-point game. Like the stats of that game, I mean, first downs, Miami 30, Cal 12. Total yards, Miami 575, Cal 370. Average yards per pass, Miami actually is like the one thing that they didn't beat them at. Even penalties, Miami had 9 for 110. Cal had 6 for 43. Each had one turnover. Miami had more possession with 37 minutes. But, I mean, basically top to bottom, you would have thought Miami probably won that by 14. And they basically had to do a historic comeback to win that game.
Yeah. I didn't get to watch much of the game, but I do remember waking up and being kind of shocked that California lost that game. Another upset was the Michigan-Washington game.
None of us got that one right.
Yeah, absolutely. We all got that one wrong. It was, again, I didn't get to watch most of it. I don't think me or Kattus probably did, but checking up on it, I mean, huge win really for them coming off a loss out of Rutgers early in the year and losing to Washington State, which is a team they normally beat. That seemed like Washington could have a pretty big down year, but a huge big time win for them. It seems like Michigan still hasn't really got it going on offensively. I mean, they've ran the ball okay, but through the air, they really haven't done much as too successful. But it's cool to see Will Rogers kind of get a little bit in groove over there after he's been so successful at Mississippi State.
Washington is a hard place to play, though.
It looks.
Apparently,
that's something. One of the you look at the stadium, you wouldn't think it because it's somewhat open. But apparently, it is one of the loudest stadiums to play at. I think
it's actually a pretty stadium, though.
It is very. It's right on the water. But Michigan just still struggles in the passing game, and they're trying to strictly rely on running the ball, and it's just not really working.
They're teeing off on it now.
What's up?
They're teeing off on it now.
Yeah,
on the fact that they went 2 games in a row without 100 yards passing, and they won both games, but now teams are starting to just tee up on it.
I think Michigan has 8. This is total. They have 8 total interceptions and 6 total passing touchdowns.
Wow.
They have 690 passing yards on the season. that is, I mean, that.
You said Washington is open, but I'll show you. Like, I got a picture.
Like, I know they have the top of it, but
that's why, right? Like, when you look at it, they've got both those awnings that just force the sound down too, and those upper decks are big.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a big stadium, so that's not, it's not little. It's, I think it holds like over 80,000.
Yeah, Coach Hamden, he coached there a while back, and he said for a big game, he said that's probably the loudest.
71,000.
Been in.
I've heard that from multiple places and multiple people too.
But, yeah, like Michigan, they average 115 passing yards a game currently.
That's not, you're not going to win a lot of football games like that.
And it just makes me wonder, like, what were they doing when J.J. McCarthy was the quarterback? Were they not like really?
Well, they lost a lot. I mean, they lost, I think, 16 players.
Their defense hasn't been as great as we've seen it.
Yeah,
Well, their offense is leaving them on the field too.
Yeah,
it's true.
They don't have one receiver with more than 80 receiving yards on the season, and their leading receiver is a tight end,
Colson.
Yeah, Loveland. So maybe they still got to figure it out, and you can't. I mean, I know a lot of people left, and also like a huge exodus of players and coaches from Michigan, but like you said, that will not win you many football games.
Mm-mm.
Georgia ended up getting after Auburn a little bit. Seemed a little more slow.
Surprising one was the Ole Miss game.
I wasn't that surprised by it.
I mean, I think just
You picked South Carolina, I think.
Just playing both teams, like you would have thought that South Carolina would give them a lot tougher game than that, and especially it being at South Carolina.
You played South Carolina, Georgia, and Ole Miss, and you think South Carolina is on that level?
I thought their defense was pretty good. I thought their edge rushes were pretty good.
I also thought you guys missed a ton of blocks.
Which game?
South Carolina. Look, a lot of it, because I know Stoops came out and even said he wasn't as mad the next day because it was operational and not effort.
Yeah.
If you look at that, even because I know, even if you look at like the defense gave up 3 touchdowns on 3 explosive plays due to miscommunication with the headset. I don't know what Kattus did all game. Did Kattus play that game? I'm just teasing with you. The offense, like when you look at the blocking schemes, it was simple. There was other little things in route, like it was just little, right? But all that. You could miss little things and get your ass kicked, especially in this league.
I mean, there was a drive we probably ran.
You ran up and down on them, and
then there was some penalties that kind of had went wrong, and I think also we thought they were going to play a lot of man to man,
and it was a lot more.
There's a lot of zone, like show man, play zone, because that's what they did the week before. But maybe it was just one of those games. But I
you haven't looked like the same team since.
Yeah, they haven't.
You haven't either.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have looked like a top 10 team, and they've looked like a average team.
Except for when they looked good versus LSU.
I think the jury's out on LSU still, though. We'll find out a lot about them this weekend.
Yeah,
I agree. That was just one of those games where I think almost anything that could go wrong really pretty much did when we played South Carolina. But I agree that with your take on LSU and their game that I think that you don't have an exact tell of how good LSU is, and even can say the same thing about South Carolina, but they haven't really been as consistent after our game.
There's another surprising game, Minnesota USC. I think that caught everyone by surprise. Minnesota was 2-3 going into the game, ended up out scoring 14 points, shutting USC out in the fourth quarter and winning 24-17.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise.
That was the biggest shock of the weekend, I think. Well, never mind. I was waiting for you to see if I was going to get that because we have to talk about it.
But that was, Miller Moss has been a good quarterback all year, really since he started playing last year against Louisville in their bowl game. But it seemed like not many things went their way. He didn't have a great of a day, he didn't have a good
very even game. If you look at the stats, though, very even game.
That's Minnesota seemed like they ran the ball really well on them. Their quarterback seemed to be very efficient, like 4 incompletions. But that is surprising. I don't know what necessarily I saw a couple things out there talking about why there could be so many upsets this season compared to others, and I couldn't really, like, some people talk about NIL, but I'm not really exactly sure. You know what I mean? Why some things would, when people make a claim like that. But
I got a theory.
What's your theory?
And I actually asked your coach about this before the season started. With the 12-team playoff now, right? Before, like, let's just take you guys for example. Last year and going back, you guys know you probably don't have a lot to play for besides a big bowl game at this point in the season. Last year, the year before, maybe if you went out, maybe you get lucky, right? And you can get to an SEC title game. Still going to be really hard in that divisional ranking. Now, you and a lot of other teams know there's a lot to play for.
I would 100% agree.
I would
with
agree
that.
with that.
You guys know that you guys know you have a badass defense. Your offense is getting better. You've proven you can play with the best teams in the country. Why can't you guys go to the playoffs, right?
100%.
So your belief now, what you play for is there every single week, and it's almost NFL late season-esque now, right? That last 8-game stretch, because you guys can now.
Yeah. I agree with that. I mean,
I would 100%.
so many more teams have so much more to play than compared to years in the past, and I think that's a great way to put it.
And I think you also have good teams that know their margins are bigger. Like, look at the SEC this year. When's the last time you've seen? I mean, there's 16 teams in the league. 15 have a loss.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've seen that going into week 6 that you have 15 SEC teams with an L?
It's normally Georgia and Bama sitting.
And then maybe you get another one with like one or
Tennessee.
But you're looking at it too. Like, you know, Texas is undefeated, but Texas really hasn't been tested yet. So we haven't seen, like, Texas back half of the schedule is loaded. So we find out where Texas actually is. But there's so much more to play for. And even I think in the leagues, you're going to see a lot more teams beat up on each other, because you're Ohio State or something. You could take a week off. You can lose a bad game, and it's not going to matter because you're probably going to make it anyway, right? Like, I think some teams might have that. It's that adjusted mindset. You guys have always had a chip on your shoulder, and other teams like that. And now all of a sudden that chip can turn into a reality because you can get to that next level, and now you're in a playoff situation.
I would agree. Because there's time, like the past 2 years, where, you know, you lose that second game and you're like, oh, man, it feels like, for a second, almost feels like everything you kind of worked for is almost taken from you. And now you're just working for that bowl game. Whereas now it's like everything in the SEC is wide open. We really, like, with the game we're talking about, that we're going to talk about soon. I mean, games like that, it opens everything up. You know, it opens up the conversation. You really don't know what's going to happen the next 5-6 weeks of the season at all.
I mean, especially now with everything the way it's set up. I mean, you guys not only have a path to playoffs, you have a path to an SEC title game. I mean, that's all there. And that's got to add jolts in practice. It's got to make things more competitive. It's got to make you guys, when you wake up on days where you're feeling like shit because you're tired and you're hurt, it's that little bit extra motivation, and that can go a long way.
Absolutely. No, I think that's probably the best way to put it. If I were to pinpoint anything on why maybe in the past so many upsets have happened, especially this past week, that's a great point.
And there's been a lot of ones that have been really close too this year.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's not just been like, this is just the week everything just hit the head.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of games real close.
Yeah. Yeah. There could have been many more upsets this season.
But there was only one the upset last week. And that was Vandy against Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously they won and we got them this week. So, I mean, I think that, like, one thing I was telling my friends even before that game happened, so we were already watching film on them and stuff from the bye week, that I feel like every time I've played or been on a team that's played Vandy, this would be my third time. Like, I feel like Vandy in the past, like, people never really realize how good they've always. I mean, there's always a good, really strong football team. You know what I'm saying? They've never. I mean, they beat us in 2022, and
yeah.
But I feel like now it's just everybody knows that now just because of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was like, I think that, like, obviously that beating the number one team in the country can do. I mean, it just brings so much more volume and so much more eyes to the program for Vandy, but. we were expecting. I mean, nobody was expecting them to beat Alabama, but I'm saying that like we knew they're a very strong Vanderbilt team and have been in the past. I know they had a rough loss against Georgia State, but like their game against Missouri and really any other games other than that, they've had a good product on the film. And
and, you know, like I'd say a lot of people, like outsiders, they look at Vandy as, like you said, like as a team that, this should be a check W on the schedule. But then you see them beat the number one team in the country. And I think that's a little bit of an eye opener for everyone.
It wasn't fluky either.
No, I mean, they dominated. I mean, Alabama made some
I wouldn't
mistakes.
say they dominated, but it was very much like a game you would expect against
I mean, they
Alabama and Georgia or LSU, right? Offensive, I mean, it was just back and forth,
40 points.
slugfest. Yeah, but it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a fluky. I mean, I think Milroe threw a pick six.
yes,
There
so
was
there's
some
one.
stuff watching film. They missed some opportunities. Quite a few.
Alabama.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, Vandy just outplayed them.
But is that fluky though? If you don't execute, I don't think that is fluky.
No, I
I'm
don't
talking
think-
about.
I wouldn't say it's fluky. I think
No.
like the hardest part was, I mean, like Vandy had that start with a pick six. I believe they scored, and I believe it was 14-0 at a point.
It was 23-10, I think, at halftime.
Yes, and
Sorry, 23-14 because Alabama scored. I got to tell you what though, Alabama's wide receiver is a freaking cheat code.
Hey Williams,
Oh,
yeah,
my God.
Oh my! That when he made that touchdown
Stayed in
catch,
bounds and ran down the field.
I was just like, as soon as that happened, I was like, oh, this is just. I was like, oh, Vandy had a cute game. That was the end of that, and then it wasn't. It was crazy.
I think like when I was keeping up with the game, like I was telling everybody, I bet they'll come back in the second half. I mean, not because I thought Vandy was not a good opponent, but you just think that that's kind of how things have gone in the past for really any team when you're playing the number one team in the country. But the main thing I took away from it was when, like I said, or you said Vanderbilt was up 23-10 at half. I mean, when you're up and you have such a good offense, Alabama's got a good defense too, but just such an explosive offense where they can score and score quickly with Milroe and all the weapons that he has. That you got to be able to run the ball pretty efficiently and effectively, and it seems like that they really did. And Pavia was also, obviously doing his thing, but he was extremely efficient. That's where I think you can knock out kind of like the flukiness of it. Like it wasn't like,
Well, Alabama scored on the first drive. It was 23-21, and Vandy answers every time.
Yeah.
That was the impressive thing, right? Every time Bama seemed like they answered and had momentum, Vandy answered right back.
Yeah.
Every time.
that's like the way to be able to answer like that. I think can prove out kind of the flukiness of it. And I know Vanderbilt did hit some big plays. He had that big 4th and 1 that went for a touchdown, but like it wasn't like Pavia it was just like all of his completions were shots. He was 16 of 20 and they ran the ball for about 160 some yards. They were able to keep a win like that. They seemed like pretty balanced and had a good planned attack to do that. But really, that's where I would knock out any flukiness of it and just how tough the league and really all the teams in our league can be. That I think any team almost can, any team against any opponent can win about any game, and any game that both teams got to bring it to the table to prove your best and ultimately win or just put your best product out on the field.
Mm-hmm. And that fumble by the quarterback on the snap was pretty.
It's a strip.
It was a strip sack.
It was a strip sack. Yeah. It was a great play.
Yeah.
It was a great play. It was on the 50-yard line. It was a great strip sack. I mean, just the awareness to get in and get his hand there. I mean, it was a great play. I know you guys are on the offensive side of the ball, but kind of shifting gears to game week against Vandy. What do you notice when you're watching film defensively that they do? Because it seems like Vandy historically has had a very tough defense, right? Like strong, physical. They're actually giving up a lot more points this year. Their offense is what's actually is playing really well and really carrying them. What are you seeing from them defensively that really makes you feel like, hey, these guys possess this challenge for us this week?
I don't think like I think we've faced, we've played 3 defenses so far that are like really talented. They have top-notch athletes. And I wouldn't say those guys, the guys on Vandy's defense, are like some of the guys we have faced, but they play extremely hard and they're very technical with how they play.
More unit than individual.
Yes, I think like
they don't make a lot of mistakes, is what you're saying as a unit.
Yeah, and they play extremely hard, and that's just kind of what you think you'd get out of them and what you see like on the film. They have a nickel. He's number 2, who I think is a really, really good ball player, and he flies around on the field. But like their front seven's not gonna like blow you away, but they play extremely hard. They play their gap, and they're smart football players. So if you're lacking detail, if you're not focusing on a play, like they can beat you and they'll make some big plays like how they did in that Bama game.
Number 2 or number 12?
Number 2.
Fontenette. Another, like the one game that stood out to me even before the Alabama game was the Missouri game. I mean, Missouri did a few big plays.
Burden was a big game changer in that game.
So I mean, I'm like, Missouri did end up like rushing the ball for 200 some yards against them, but it is. I mean, Missouri got nothing easy at all, and that, I mean, there was not one. I mean, Burden made a couple big time plays, but just up front, I think that if you watch the Missouri versus Vandy game in the past, this Vanderbilt front on the defensive side looked a lot better than a Missouri offensive line going back from the past few years or so. But that was probably the first thing that popped out to me about this defense. But really, as a whole, they're pretty solid, but I think pretty dang good. But I think that the first thing that popped out to my eyes was their defensive line. And they got pretty across the board. I don't think there's one part that, like you would say, is that much worse, or I guess not as up to par as other parts of the defense. So I think really just being stout, kind of like Kattus said. But first thing that came on the film was their defensive line to me. So do you want to go into next week's games?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to finish up on Vandy, it's not a team we can take lightly, as we know now, as we've seen this past week and some of the performances they've put together. So that's something that Coach Stoops has done a great job of, is really pushing out how much talent they have, and you know how if we don't come in locked into play, have a good week of practice, like they could come in and upset us and win. So I think the guys we had a good week of practice, and we are ready for that challenge. We know there's a lot of hype around them, but we're excited about it because we know that they're going to come in and give us a pretty big challenge. So
absolutely.
From just real quick, what do you guys see offensively that they do? You don't play against them, but you guys understand offense. What is it that they do that's really going to present more of a challenge for Kentucky, for our defense, that you've seen and may or may not have seen in other weeks?
I think it revolves around Pavia in the triple option. Oh, sorry, it revolves around Pavia, and they like to get your eyes dirty and get guys committed, thinking, oh, the quarterback's going to take it, and they pitch the ball out. So they run that triple option. That's something that our defense isn't really used to, and that's something that our Coach White had identified early in the week. Like, they're not a traditional split zone team. Like, they want you to have dirty eyes. They want you to think that it's a triple option, and they're throwing a pop pass down the field. So they do a lot of good stuff, and their quarterback does a good job of disguising some of it as well. So, but I think our defense will be pretty keyed into it. They're doing a pretty good job. They've done a good job on the scout team and stuff this week. I know from talking to my brother and stuff. So
I'd say the same things. I mean, Pavia's playmaking ability. And really, they kind of got one thing that sticks out to me is, I mean, Pavia hasn't thrown an interception all year. I'm not sure if they've had many fumbles.
That's
at all.
Crazy.
But yes, against Alabama and other teams they've played, is that he has yet to throw an interception, and also he's the team's leading rusher. another part
that's not necessarily good for the longevity.
No, yeah, him being the leading rusher for the team, I would agree. But they also have a tight end. I know his last name is Stowers, but it's Eli Stowers. He also played
Former QB.
Yeah, former quarterback. He's their leading receiver by quite a bit. I think he's at 333 receiving yards. The next leading receiver is at 170, and he seems kind of like his guy. And as much as Pavia gets in that backyard football kind of style, he seems like he's been a guy that he's gone to in the past. So I haven't watched much of their offense, but that sounds like a guy that's a big part of their offense, and especially when the pocket breaks, as Pavia likes it to be like that, he's a guy that he finds pretty often.
Okay, moving on to next week. We got quite a few big games.
Yeah, it's good to have some big games. Texas, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Big one to Texas.
The Red River
State
Shootout.
Fair. Texas favored pretty heavily, as I think. Oklahoma's had a few rough games, some tight games, and Oklahoma probably has been playing to the standard that they have in the past, at least on the offense.
They're not very
side.
good on offense.
But
yeah, and they're coming off a bye week, in which they just kind of had changed up their quarterback situation.
yes,
So maybe that had given them a little bit of time to adjust and start to kind of build that wide receiver quarterback connection, get him kind of accustomed to running the starting offense. But either way, I think Texas is extremely, extremely talented. I'm not sure is Quinn Ewers back yet?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that with him not being back, I can't. I just pulled up on my phone. The spread is 14.5, and I believe it will be a tight game. I mean, those kind of rivalry games, I always see something tight come on. But obviously, I think Texas is very.
Never mind. Quinn Ewers is starting against Oklahoma.
In that case, I would easily take Texas over Oklahoma.
I would too, but I still think it'll be close. I still think it'll be a good tight game.
I can see it being like a 10-point game.
Yes, I'm with you on that.
But they'll definitely give us a game. What do you think, Paul?
Everything about this says Texas is going to beat the hell out of them, which makes me really feel like Oklahoma might get it. I just think Oklahoma offensively doesn't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
Their quarterback situation is kind of a mess. They don't have a go-to wide receiver one. Their offensive line's not very good. I mean, I know they just came off a bye week. I kind of agree. It's a rivalry game. I think it'll be closer, but I think Texas. You have to pick Texas. If Oklahoma wins, if I said Oklahoma was going to win and then Oklahoma won, I would have just been like, I literally was just saying that. I never believed it. Like, there's nothing that leads me to believe Oklahoma is going to win this game. Like, nothing.
I would agree with you. I feel like we got to talk about South Carolina, Bama.
It's an interesting game.
Interesting game.
Alabama's going to win that game by 1,000.
I 100% agree. I would not be surprised if South Carolina came out hot and they presented a challenge, but I think after Alabama losing a game like
there's
that,
no way in hell South Carolina's walking in to Bryant-Denny Stadium after Alabama lost to Vandy.
And yeah,
if they do, Kellen DeBoer is fired.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know, like
the
end, like they're gonna be clamoring for Saban to come out to leave the state. I'm just gonna put it this way: if South Carolina wins that game, Alabama will be absolute shambles. Like, their team will fall apart. They'll lose 5 games this year.
Yeah,
It's gonna be terrible.
I don't
South
see it
happening.
happening. Obviously,
Yeah.
plugging out, but something got to highlight.
Alabama can win and win big on that one.
Big game though out in the out west. You've got Arizona and Utah on the Friday game. Arizona State's 4-1. Utah just came off kind of a wild loss to Arizona. Both are 4-1, both 1-1 in the Big 12. So from a Big 12 perspective, that's a big game out in the Big 12 because if Arizona State wins, obviously they're 5-1. Loser has more of an uphill battle to the title game, and the Big 12 for me is the most wide open conference right now. You know, there's no dominant team out there that you can just maybe go to and say, yeah, that's they're going to win it all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Especially, I absolutely agree with you, and it even makes it more interesting with Cam Rising not being out there. I believe that's a true freshman. Zach Wilson's little brother is playing for him, and that's a whole lot. As a true freshman playing quarterback, I feel like
you see Zach Wilson's mom more.
Maybe, I guess. But that is a unique one. I think that there's probably been opportunities for so many different teams to kind of show themselves in the Big 12, and one team, while we're talking about it, BYU's had a solid year.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I did go last week.
They're undefeated. They are. They have a big game. Arizona. Arizona's a weird team.
They're good.
They're
good.
They're not consistent though.
Yeah.
Like you don't know which Arizona team you're going to get. You're going to get the Arizona team that can hang 70 and go on the road and beat Utah. Or you're going to get the Arizona team that just can lose and just play like crap. Like they're an enigma this year.
Yeah. I mean that the receiver and quarterback dude. They
were preseason top 15.
Yeah, those two have been together since high school. Like
yeah, Fafita and T-Mac.
Mm-hmm. They I don't see BYU losing, but
not at home.
No, not at home.
Provo.
That is a tough place to play.
It is only a 4-point spread though. I will say that, but I agree with you. I don't see them losing.
Arizona is a talented offense that you can't be surprised if they go out and they, like you said, hang 70. But playing at BYU, I think that's a pretty challenging task. So I got BYU.
I do have my sleeper upset of the week, though.
What you got?
USC over Penn State.
I like that also. Penn State's favored by 4.
Penn State's 4.5-point favorites. It's at USC. The game would have been monstrous if USC would have won, you probably would have had 9 versus 4.
Yeah.
Obviously, USC loses. Penn State really hasn't been tested all that much this season. They've had a couple clunky halves against Power 5 teams or Group of 5 teams, but I think if you look at it, that's an interesting matchup. And USC at home, I think it's a long trip. It's a weird game. It's an old Rose Bowl type matchup. Give me the Trojans.
Do you want to make that the sushi pick of the week?
No, we got to have like a good game for that, like an actual good game. You're not going to get my upset pick on the sushi pick of the week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go sushi pick of the week on 4 versus unranked.
I mean, it's not like
spread's
USC's
only
good
4.
I know, but that's not really like the sushi pick of the week's got to be Ole Miss LSU.
Or you go Ohio State.
Or Ohio State, Oregon.
I think we're going to both agree with the Ohio State Oregon game.
I have a feeling we won't.
All right.
We can go into that game now, but I think Ohio State will win that one. I think that it will be close, but I think Ohio State will probably win by like 7.
Who are you picking in that game?
Points.
Ohio State.
Oh, cool. That's the sushi pick of the week. I'm going Oregon.
You're going to Oregon?
Outson Stadium is the loudest stadium in college football. Oregon loves big games. That stadium is loud. They do everything on point. They came out of their shell last week. They blew the doors off. They finally got things going. Their defense has been playing really well. Ohio State has played absolutely nobody all season long. They've looked like crap in the first half of every single game. And if that happens against Oregon, Oregon's going to not only win, they're going to beat the doors off them. I think Ohio State's got a little bit of fraud in them. I really do. They have not played well at all in a half of football this season yet. Oregon's been tested already. Give me the Ducks in Outson Stadium at night in Eugene. Quack, quack.
Nah,
give me that sushi.
Nah, brother.
I think both teams have a little bit of the what'd you call it?
I mean, Oregon versus Idaho, first game of the year, 24-14. Struggled with Boise State. Boise State's obviously pretty good. I'm going with the $20 million team, man. I mean,
but Oregon's also beat Oregon State on the road and UCLA on the road.
UCLA hasn't looked great.
I get it, but they've played on the road. They've played a top 25 team. Who's Ohio State played? They've played 5 teams. Can you name any of their 5 wins?
I mean, I get that. I really do get that. I look at their team and who they have on their team.
Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall, Michigan State, and Iowa.
Iowa's got a good defense.
They had a clunker. Yeah. I mean,
They're
it was what, 14. What was it? 14.
Lose to Iowa.
What was it? 14 nothing. It was 7 nothing. But here's the thing: 7 nothing at halftime. It was 7 nothing at halftime. Iowa doesn't have a great offense. It was 7 nothing at halftime. Like, those are the things that I'm looking at. If you look at Ohio State in their first halves, they've not played well.
I think Ohio State is going to beat the brakes off of Oregon.
I would be actually impressed if that happened.
Okay.
I think they'll win by probably a touchdown. I'm pulling up Ohio State's schedule, and I'm just kind of what comes with what you got at Ohio State, and I strongly believe the SEC is a much tougher conference than the Big Ten. But
Marshall and Ohio State was tied 7-7 in the end of the first quarter. It was 28-14 at halftime, and Ohio State had to score.
Georgia did the same thing last year in the first 3 games. Like, it was 7-0 versus slow.
There's a big difference. Georgia was also the back-to-back national champions.
Exactly. And last year they did the same thing. It was like 7-0 at halftime versus Ball State. I promise you, we watched the first 4 games. We thought we had a chance. They come out. That was one of the best teams I've ever played in my life.
Yeah, what also would have helped if you could complete a pass that game.
Agreed. But my point is like I
mean, before you guys even knew the game was going, it was 21-0.
And they did start well in the first
but
quarter.
also you also shot yourselves in the foot the whole first quarter.
I agree. They're still pretty damn good. They
are good.
They're moving the ball pretty easily.
I mean, they've lost exactly 0 teams not named Alabama. I mean, in the last 5 years, right? Like, that's the thing.
Ohio State's lost to 0 teams that have not been named. Michigan.
Yeah, they have. They lost to Georgia. They've lost to Clemson
in the regular season.
Well, in the regular season, Georgia's only lost to 1 team the last 4 years. That's Alabama. I'm just saying, the last 5 years, Ohio State's lost to more teams than Georgia has.
Well, we're not really debating Georgia, Ohio State. I was making a point that some teams don't start out as hot as they do.
But if this game was at the Horseshoe, I'd agree with you. But Alston is a nightmare to play in. That is a loud place. You have a coach that is building a team like an SEC team out there.
So is Ohio State.
But he's not.
Took the best safety out of the SEC.
But Ryan Day's also
the best running back out of the SEC.
Sure, but Ryan Day's also turned around and has also struggled in almost every big game he's played in. Until you get over the hump, give me Oregon. Give me Oregon at home.
I'm a Michigan fan. I'm a diehard Michigan fan. I grew up a Michigan fan. I'm taking Ohio State. I don't even like Ohio
Sushi
State.
pick of the week right there.
Sushi pick of the week.
This one's a little heated now.
This is a good pick, though. You got to have those like good matchups that you disagree on.
I agree.
Because it can go either way.
Another one we got on another game we have. Also, sadly, at the same time, and we won't be able to watch it here, but that's a bad setup for all college.
I'm just going to tell you right now, Kattus is going to walk into the locker room if Oregon starts winning to like 30 text messages. Yeah. Just sushi gifts.
Yeah, I know.
I was very upset. He said we were going to get into a Twitter battle, and he didn't even tweet back at me.
I said I was going to look at your Twitter, your tweets.
He didn't even respond.
I acknowledged it. I was like, wow, Paul just tweeted at me. But I'm not to the point where I'm getting into Twitter battles yet.
Not yet. It'd be entertaining for the fans.
And in like a year or 2, yeah, I'll get in some Twitter battles with you.
Oh, it'd be fun. It would be very playful. It wouldn't be that bad. I'd just be just telling you, hungry. Ole Miss LSU.
Yeah, same time as Ohio State and Oregon. So rough for the viewer out there. But Ole Miss is traveling to LSU. Ole Miss is favored by 3.5.
Those games. Dang.
I think that I believe Ole Miss will probably win. I think that they'll win, but it'll probably be a tight game. Like you said earlier, I don't think LSU is necessarily completely proven themselves to probably be ranked 13th in the country right now. And I think Ole Miss keeps it rolling. Following South Carolina ends up winning this game. So I think that's my point of view on it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I think LSU hasn't really convinced me much this year. Lost to USC, South Carolina. Played them pretty well. Should have won that game. Didn't really blow out UCLA. You know,
Lost.
They lost.
Oh,
to
UCLA. Sorry, not USC. Yeah.
They didn't really blow out UCLA. At one point, it was a tight game, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss looked good. They bounced back after the South Carolina game. I think
Their defense played real well.
Their defense is good.
Yeah.
Their defense is good. And it's the funny thing. I found out I think it was the defensive coordinator or the old head coach at Mississippi State is now on the Ole Miss staff.
Mm-hmm.
I can get fact checked, but I heard this. And so a lot of the movement stuff they do up front that they were doing versus us is some stuff that the Mississippi State had kind of done, which teams have struggled with in the past. So they have a good defense. They have a lot of talent, and there's a lot of good schemes going on there as well. But going with the Rebels again. Don't think LSU has really proven themselves yet to me to have that 13th ranking spot.
You got any?
I agree. I look, Tiger Stadium, Death Valley is a hell of a place to play a night game. It's terrifying, right? They've actually had earthquakes register there. But the thing that LSU has not impressed me with the most is defense. I think that this has the makings of it could be a shootout, but I think Ole Miss gets 2 or 3 stops, and I don't know if LSU gets a lot of stops. And I think that's ultimately the game. But also, Ole Miss showed me something against South Carolina that they can win kind of ugly. And I didn't know that they had that in their repertoire, right? Like, you guys beat them ugly.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
A little something last week. And
that's been their Achilles heel. And they went back-to-back ugly games. They're 1-1. So I like their chances. Yeah, I just like the game, like them this week, even though it's a hard place to play.
I agree.
You want to know another sneaky game I think might sneaky be good? Florida and Tennessee. Tennessee offensively they have never replaced Hendon Hooker yet. That offense needs a specific type of quarterback to run it at a high level, right?
Agree.
It's not that they're not going to hit plays. Tennessee's defense, you and Tennessee both mirror each other a little bit, but I'm seeing regression on Tennessee and progression on you guys on the offensive side of the ball, right? And you guys have also played much harder teams overall. Now, granted, they played kind of 2 good defenses, but I don't know who Tennessee is, and I've said this all season. Defensively, I think they're really good. Like they're a really good unit on defense. Offensively, I don't know if they know who they are yet. Florida's going to play with a chip on their shoulder. I don't think Florida wins. I don't. But I think it's one of those games that's a little bit closer than maybe people think it is.
I think I'm with you. Tennessee's favored by 15.5. Yeah, I don't know if I see it getting like that.
I would pick. Yeah, I feel like that's like a 10-point game.
And what happened? Florida had beat them last year.
Yeah, in the swamp. When nobody thought they would beat them. Florida looked dead to rights last year, and won, and that's how they got ranked because they had already lost the game when you guys played them last year. They got ranked, and then you guys beat the brakes off of them.
And Florida, I know Florida lost to A&M, but A&M has been looking a lot better after that Notre Dame game.
They lost to A&M and Miami, so they have lost to 2 top, basically 10 teams.
And I know Mississippi State hasn't done well, but they beat them by
played really well against UCF.
Yes,
a lot of people picked UCF to win.
The 2 very solid wins after that A&M loss, which we obviously can tell now that A&M's a good team that's rebounded. So I'm with you on that point. I think that even playing at Neyland, that will be a much closer game than what people would expect. And that was going to be the last game that I talked about was the Florida Tennessee one. But really, that's kind of one point I guess we hit on earlier in this podcast. In the SEC, every single game is hard, and
every week's going to be brutal now.
Every Tennessee fan, or not every, but some Tennessee fans probably just imagine that they're at number 8, even though they just had a loss to Arkansas. That it will probably be easy, and it definitely will not be easy for them. No. Florida's got players all over the field, but so definitely
they've always been talented. Like they always have talent on their team. I think I don't know what specifically goes wrong each and every year with them, but there's talent there.
In Florida? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they recruit very well, you know?
So I'm going to tell you something funny real quick, because this is like when you guys get married and all this stuff, the random text you get. So for my wife, I just got, do you all want cake?
Shoot. Hell yeah.
That was a question for you guys, by the way.
The answer is yes, because it was from today and it was freaking fire.
There we go.
Fire.
Freaking fire.
Okay, the answer is yes. She'll bring you cake.
Bro,
That's nice.
Dead serious.
what type of cake?
Oh, ask Kendall.
Fancy cake.
What the heck is
Love
that?
Shack fancy cake.
Dude, does Kattus know where the microphone is? They
I'm
just,
right
I
here.
swear.
Answer's
Just,
no.
I'm literally right here. You said I could I could be close to it and not. What is Love Shack fancy cake?
Is that a store, like a clothing
Yeah.
store?
Yeah.
I didn't know they made cakes.
Well, they don't, but we had a little party today and they sponsored us and they had cake. It was really good.
All right,
There we go.
let's go.
and she has paper plates, but no forks. But I feel like you have the ability to get a fork.
Maybe.
In this
They
facility.
might
thought you
have
were
some
gonna
forks in.
Telling me I had to
facility.
eat it with his hands.
It's fine. I mean,
That would've been better.
That would have been worthy. Sorry, I cut you off there, Beau,
No, you're
but I
fine.
figured cake was an important
I mean,
topic.
yeah, we're probably pretty close to wrapping it up.
Cake is an important topic.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously a bunch of good games out there. We got a huge one against Vanderbilt this week. Got a great Saturday for Kentucky football fans. Keeneland's up and going.
Heck
Hopefully,
yeah.
I believe the weather should be all right.
Oh, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Finally. Bet you guys are happy not to play a game
What's beautiful weather to you?
sunny and 70, and it'll
High
be
of
in
75.
high of 75, low in the 50s. Game time is going to be about 60, 65 degrees. Tell me that's not perfect football weather.
Yeah, I don't think it really gets much better than that. Kattus may say it should be in the 35 degrees, but
From Ohio.
I get it, but I mean, doesn't it hurt a lot more to get hit when it's 35?
No, you don't really feel it. I think 65 is good. It'd be good atmosphere. Night game. All the Kentucky fans have been waiting. They got their bye week, but they're ready to get back to Kroger Field, cheer on the Cats.
yeah, this is Field Vision with Josh Kattus and Beau Allen, and life comes fast, but football comes faster. Thank you, and see you this weekend.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Bleed Blue Network podcast. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of Kentucky sports with us. Don't forget to stay connected by following us on Twitter at BleedBNation. Your feedback means the world to us. So take a moment to leave a review. Not only does it help us improve, but it also helps others discover the show. Until next time, keep cheering, keep listening, and keep bleeding blue.